My name is Leonard. I'm 32 years old, and I've spent my entire life living in the shadow of my older sister Rebecca. While my parents worshipped the ground she walked on, they dismissed everything I ever accomplished. They never knew I was secretly building a tech empire while they mocked my computer hobby. Last Easter, everything changed when I revealed I had purchased the company where my sister was VP, right before I fired her in front of our entire family. Before I dive into how I turned the tables on my family, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt underestimated by the people who should believe in you the most. Growing up in suburban Boston wasn't easy for me. Our upper-middle-class neighborhood was filled with competitive families, but the toughest competition was inside our own home. My father, Thomas, built a successful law practice from scratch, becoming one of the most sought-after attorneys in Massachusetts. My mother, Patricia, had her own interior design business catering to wealthy clients. They were the quintessential power couple, and they expected nothing less than perfection from their children. Rebecca, 5 years my senior, was their perfect firstborn. From the moment she brought home her first straight-A report card in elementary school, she became the golden standard against which I would always be measured. While my birthday parties were modest affairs at the local pizza place, Rebecca's celebrations were elaborate events with professional entertainment and customized decorations. My parents would beam with pride as they introduced her to their friends and colleagues, while I would be an afterthought if mentioned at all. When I was 10, I discovered my passion for computers and coding. The logical patterns of programming languages made sense to me in a way that human interactions never did. I would spend hours in my room teaching myself BASIC and HTML, creating simple games and websites. I remember running downstairs excitedly to show my parents a basic game I had programmed. My father glanced at the screen for less than 5 seconds before saying, "That's nice, Leonard, but don't waste too much time on these computer games. You should join a sports team like your sister." Rebecca was captain of the debate team and played varsity soccer activities my parents considered worthwhile. The disparity in how we were treated became painfully obvious when I was 12. I had entered a regional coding competition and against all odds won first place. The award ceremony was scheduled on the same day as Rebecca's debate tournament. Without hesitation, my parents chose to attend her event, even though she had participated in dozens of similar competitions. My Uncle Jack, my father's younger brother who worked in IT, was the only family member who came to support me. When I received my trophy, I looked out at the audience and felt a mixture of pride and heartbreak, seeing only Uncle Jack cheering for me. That night, when my parents returned home celebrating Rebecca's third-place finish, they barely acknowledged my achievement. "That's nice, honey," my mother said distractedly, before returning to praise Rebecca's performance. Uncle Jack tried to intervene, telling them how impressive my programming was, but they brushed it off as a cute hobby. That night, something shifted inside me. I realized that no matter what I accomplished, it would never be enough for them. Throughout middle school and high school, the pattern continued. Rebecca joined more prestigious clubs, won more academic awards, and continued to be the center of my parents' universe. At family gatherings, relatives would ask about Rebecca's achievements while I stood awkwardly in the corner feeling invisible. My academic accomplishments, which were actually quite impressive, were treated as expected rather than celebrated. When I made the honor roll, my father's response was, "Rebecca never got anything less than straight A's." The constant comparisons chipped away at my self-esteem. Uncle Jack became my lifeline during these years. He recognized my talent with computers and encouraged me to develop my skills. He would take me to technology conferences, buy me programming books, and talk to me about the future of the tech industry. "You have a gift, Leonard," he told me once, "and someday everyone will see it." His faith in me was the validation I never got at home. By the time I was finishing high school, I had become emotionally self-sufficient. I stopped seeking my parents' approval and instead channeled my energy into my passions. I built websites for local businesses, learned advanced programming languages, and started exploring the emerging field of artificial intelligence. While Rebecca's achievements were loudly celebrated at the dinner table, I quietly built the foundation for what would later become my empire. My high school graduation was particularly telling. While my parents threw an extravagant party for Rebecca when she graduated as valedictorian, my graduation, where I finished in the top 5% of my class and won the technology award, was marked with a simple dinner at a local restaurant. My father spent most of that dinner talking about Rebecca's first year at Princeton and how her professors were already impressed with her potential. Those years taught me self-reliance and resilience. They also taught me to keep my ambitions to myself. I learned that the less my family knew about my goals and achievements, the less they could diminish them. As painful as it was to feel overlooked, it was also liberating. I could forge my own path without the weight of their expectations. When it came time for college, the disparity in how my parents treated Rebecca and me became even more glaring. Rebecca had been accepted to Princeton with a partial scholarship, and my parents proudly covered the remainder of her substantial tuition. They bought her a new car as a going-away present and fully furnished her apartment near campus. For me, despite having the grades and test scores to attend several prestigious universities, my parents informed me they had exhausted their college fund on Rebecca. They suggested I attend the state university and live at home to save money. I had applied for scholarships on my own, anticipating their response, and managed to secure enough financial aid to attend Massachusetts State University without their help. I moved into a rundown dormitory and worked 2 part-time jobs, one at the university IT department and another building websites for local businesses to cover my expenses. My parents seemed almost disappointed that I had found a way to attend college without their assistance. While I struggled to balance work and academics, Rebecca flourished at Princeton. My parents constantly updated me on her achievements, her perfect GPA, her prestigious internships, the influential professors who had taken her under their wing. Meanwhile, they never asked about my studies or my growing expertise in computer science and artificial intelligence. Despite the lack of support, I excelled in my program. I formed study groups with like-minded students, built relationships with professors in the computer science department, and continued developing my technical skills. By junior year, I was teaching assistant for advanced programming courses and had started building a reputation as someone who could solve complex coding problems. Rebecca graduated from Princeton with honors and immediately landed a job at MarketForge, a prestigious digital marketing firm in Boston. My parents threw an extravagant graduation party for her, inviting everyone they knew. At that party, I overheard my father boasting to his colleagues, "Rebecca is starting at MarketForge next month." They practically begged her to join their executive training program. "She'll be running the place in 5 years." No one asked what I was studying or what my plans were. When I graduated with honors in computer science the following year, my ceremony happened to fall on the same weekend as Rebecca's first work anniversary celebration. My parents attended my graduation but left immediately afterward to prepare for Rebecca's party. There were no photos proudly displayed of me in my cap and gown, no celebratory dinner, no congratulatory calls to relatives. It was as if my achievement was merely a box to be checked before getting back to celebrating Rebecca. After graduation, I declined the few corporate job offers I received. Instead, I rented a small apartment and officially launched my own web development business. I had already built a small client base during college and decided to expand it rather than work for someone else. When I told my parents about my decision, my father scoffed. "A real job would give you stability and benefits," he said. "Rebecca already has health insurance and a 401k at MarketForge." Over the next few years, Rebecca rose quickly through the ranks at MarketForge. By 29, she had become the youngest vice president in company history, overseeing their client acquisition department. My parents were ecstatic, telling anyone who would listen about their daughter's corporate success. They prominently displayed her company awards and photographs with CEOs on their mantelpiece. During this same period, I was quietly building my business. I started by developing websites for small local businesses, then expanded to more complex e-commerce platforms and custom software solutions. I reinvested almost every dollar I earned back into the business, living frugally in my modest apartment and driving an old car. From the outside, it might have appeared that I was struggling, but in reality, I was strategically growing my company and client list. Family gatherings became increasingly uncomfortable. At one particularly memorable Thanksgiving dinner, My father asked about my little website hobby in front of our extended family. When I tried to explain that I was running a legitimate business with several large clients, he interrupted me. "That's nice, Leonard, but it's not a real career like what Rebecca has built. She manages 30 people and has her own executive assistant." The table fell awkwardly silent as my mother quickly changed the subject to Rebecca's recent business trip to London. What my family didn't know was that by this point, I had developed a proprietary content management system that was gaining attention in the industry. I had 10 employees working remotely, a growing list of corporate clients, and was generating more revenue than most would guess based on my lifestyle. But I kept these details to myself partly out of pride, and partly because I had grown accustomed to flying under my family's radar. Rebecca, meanwhile, had become increasingly arrogant about her success. At family gatherings, she would dominate conversations with stories about her important meetings, the famous clients she worked with, and the lavish corporate retreats she attended. She would offer me unsolicited career advice, suggesting I apply for entry-level positions at real companies where I might have growth potential. My parents would nod approvingly at her wisdom, never considering that I might be satisfied with the path I had chosen. By my 30th birthday, the contrast in how we were perceived couldn't have been starker. Rebecca was the successful corporate executive with the luxury apartment, expensive car, and impressive title. I was the underachieving younger brother who couldn't get his act together. Little did they know I was just getting started. Between the ages of 25 and 27, while my family continued to dismiss my career, I was working 16-hour days, building something revolutionary. I had identified a significant gap in the digital marketing industry. Most companies, including MarketForge, were using outdated methods to predict consumer behavior. Their approaches relied heavily on historical data, but failed to adapt quickly to changing trends. I assembled a small team of brilliant programmers and data scientists who shared my vision. We worked out of a nondescript office space in a renovated warehouse, deliberately avoiding the glossy downtown addresses that companies like MarketForge used to impress clients. What we lacked in superficial prestige, we made up for with innovation and agility. After months of intensive development and testing, we created an algorithm that could predict consumer behavior patterns with unprecedented accuracy. Our system used artificial intelligence to analyze thousands of data points in real time, allowing businesses to adjust their marketing strategies almost instantaneously. We called it predictive response technology, PRT, and it was unlike anything else on the market. When we began approaching potential clients to test our technology, the results exceeded even our expectations. Companies reported conversion rate increases of 30 to 50% after implementing our system. Word began to spread within the industry about our revolutionary approach. Around this time, I had a fateful meeting with a group of venture capitalists who specialized in disruptive technologies. I had been hesitant to seek outside funding, preferring to maintain complete control over my company. However, I recognized that to scale properly, we would need significant capital investment. After several rounds of negotiations, I secured $20 million in funding while retaining majority ownership and decision-making authority. With this infusion of capital, I officially founded Next Level Digital, though I kept my name off the public-facing materials. Instead, I operated under a pseudonym, partly to maintain my privacy, and partly because I didn't want my family to know about my success until I was ready to reveal it. The company grew rapidly, and within 18 months, we had opened offices in 3 cities and expanded our staff to over 100 employees. While Next Level Digital was ascending, Rebecca's career at MarketForge had begun to plateau. From conversations with mutual acquaintances in the industry, I learned that MarketForge was struggling to adapt to the changing digital landscape. Their once innovative approaches had become formulaic and outdated. Rebecca, despite her title and authority, seemed resistant to new ideas, preferring to stick with the methods that had earned her previous successes. I occasionally saw industry reports mentioning MarketForge's declining market share and stagnant growth. In interviews, their executives, including Rebecca, would dismiss new technologies like ours as unproven and faddish. They couldn't see that they were being left behind by companies willing to embrace innovation. Through strategic acquisitions of smaller competitors, Next Level Digital continued to expand our technological capabilities and client base. I was careful to keep our growth controlled and sustainable, focusing on long-term stability rather than flashy short-term gains. Unlike Rebecca, who flaunted her success with luxury purchases and social media posts about exclusive events, I maintained my modest lifestyle. I upgraded to a slightly larger apartment and a more reliable car, but nothing that would signal to my family the extent of my success. Uncle Jack remained my confidant and became an early investor in Next Level Digital. He understood both the business potential and my personal motivation. "Your parents have always had a narrow definition of success," he told me during one of our regular dinners. "They respect titles and appearances. They don't understand that the business world is changing." He advised me to focus on building something meaningful rather than seeking their approval. Advice I took to heart. As my company grew, I took pride in creating a corporate culture that was the opposite of what I'd heard about MarketForge. While Rebecca ruled her department through intimidation and took credit for her subordinates' ideas, I fostered collaboration and recognized team contributions. I implemented generous benefits, packages, flexible work arrangements, and regular opportunities for professional development. Our retention rate was among the highest in the industry, while MarketForge had become known for its high turnover. Through industry contacts, I began hearing troubling stories about Rebecca's management style. Former MarketForge employees described her as increasingly tyrannical, berating staff publicly and creating a culture of fear. She was apparently more concerned with maintaining the appearance of success than addressing the company's underlying problems. In client meetings, she would promise capabilities that MarketForge's outdated systems couldn't deliver, leading to disappointed clients and damaged relationships. Despite my growing resentment toward my sister and parents, I tried to focus on building Next Level Digital into the company I envisioned, rather than obsessing over their shortcomings. I channeled my negative emotions into positive action, creating mentorship programs for young programmers from disadvantaged backgrounds, and establishing a corporate giving initiative that supported technology education in underserved communities. By my 31st birthday, Next Level Digital had become one of the fastest-growing companies in the digital marketing sector, while MarketForge was increasingly viewed as a dinosaur struggling to remain relevant. Rebecca's professional reputation had become tarnished by her inability to innovate and her harsh treatment of employees. Meanwhile, although few knew my name or face, I had built a company that was revolutionizing the industry. The contrast between our paths couldn't have been more stark. Rebecca had started with every advantage and squandered it through arrogance and resistance to change, while I had overcome neglect and dismissal to build something truly innovative. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I took no pleasure in her professional struggles. Instead, I focused on continuing to improve and expand Next Level Digital, unaware that our paths were about to intersect in a way none of us could have anticipated. The first hint that MarketForge might be in serious trouble came from an unexpected source. At an industry conference I attended anonymously as a consultant for Next Level Digital, I overheard two MarketForge middle managers discussing the company's financial woes. They spoke in hushed tones about declining profits, lost clients, and potential layoffs. One of them mentioned that the board was considering drastic measures to right the ship. My curiosity piqued. I began discreetly researching MarketForge's current status. As a privately held company, their financial information wasn't publicly available, but through industry contacts and careful analysis of market trends, I pieced together a concerning picture. MarketForge had lost several major clients in the past year. Their technology platform was outdated compared to competitors, and employee morale was at an all-time low. Most troubling was the role Rebecca seemed to be playing in the company's decline. Former employees I connected with described her as increasingly erratic and defensive. She rejected proposals for technological updates, claiming they were unnecessary expenses. She surrounded herself with yes-men and pushed out anyone who challenged her vision. Under her leadership, the client acquisition department, once MarketForge's strongest asset, had become ineffective and disorganized. As I gathered this information, I realized that MarketForge might represent a potential acquisition target for Next Level Digital. Their client list, despite recent losses, still included several prestigious companies. Their brand name carried weight in traditional sectors. With our technology and their established relationships, we could potentially create something greater than the sum of its parts. But I struggled with my motivations. Was I genuinely interested in MarketForge as a sound business investment, or was I being driven by a desire for vindication? I spent several sleepless nights weighing the ethical implications. Would acquiring my sister's company, potentially leading to her termination, make me no better than my family who had dismissed and belittled me for years? I decided to consult Uncle Jack, the one person who understood both the business and personal dimensions of the situation. We met at his vacation home on Cape Cod, away from prying eyes or ears. After explaining the situation, I asked for his honest assessment. "Leonard," he said thoughtfully, "you've built Next Level Digital into something remarkable, and you've done it with integrity. If MarketForge is a good business acquisition on its own merits, then you should consider it. But if this is primarily about showing up your sister and parents, you'll never be satisfied with the outcome, no matter what happens." His words resonated with me. I resolved to approach this potential acquisition with professional objectivity. I assembled a team of our best analysts to thoroughly evaluate MarketForge, its assets, liabilities, intellectual property, and growth potential. Their conclusion was that despite its current struggles, MarketForge could be valuable to Next Level Digital if we could quickly integrate our technology into their operations and rehabilitate their client relationships. With this analysis in hand, I developed a careful strategy. To prevent premature disclosure of my identity, I created several shell corporations to handle the initial approaches and due diligence. I selected a trusted colleague to serve as the face of these negotiations, presenting himself as the representative of an anonymous investor group interested in MarketForge. When our initial overture reached MarketForge's board, they responded with interest bordering on desperation. Their financial situation was evidently worse than I had realized. Through my proxy, I learned that they had been searching for a buyer or major investor for months without success. Our offer, while calculated to be fair rather than generous, was the lifeline they had been hoping for. Throughout this process, Rebecca remained oblivious to the identity of the potential acquirer. In fact, she apparently viewed the acquisition interest as a validation of her leadership. At a family dinner I reluctantly attended, she boastfully mentioned that a mysterious billionaire investor was interested in MarketForge, spinning this as evidence of the company's value rather than a response to its vulnerability. "He obviously recognizes the untapped potential," she told our parents, who listened with admiration. "Once this deal goes through, I'll likely be promoted to senior VP or even C-suite." My mother touched her arm affectionately. "We always knew you were destined for greatness, dear." My father turned to me with his familiar look of mild disappointment. "Leonard, you should ask your sister for advice on how to attract investors to your little website business. Maybe you could work your way up to something more substantial." I nodded noncommittally, suppressing both my irritation and the ironic amusement I felt knowing that I was the mysterious billionaire they were discussing. As the acquisition process advanced, I maintained strict confidentiality. Only Uncle Jack and my most trusted executive team members knew my connection to MarketForge. I insisted that our decisions remain strictly business-focused. We conducted thorough due diligence, identifying synergies and redundancies between the companies. I was particularly careful to document evidence of mismanagement and policy violations that might justify leadership changes post-acquisition. The negotiations were complex and occasionally tense. MarketForge's board desperate, though they were still fought to maintain appearances and extract the best possible terms. My team remained firm but fair, knowing that we held the stronger position. After several rounds of offers and counteroffers, we reached an agreement in principle. The final acquisition documents were scheduled to be signed the Tuesday after Easter. The timing was coincidental, based on legal and financial considerations, rather than personal ones. However, as I realized that I would be attending my parents' annual Easter dinner, knowing that I was about to acquire Rebecca's company, I couldn't help feeling a mix of anxiety and anticipation. The weekend before Easter, I met again with Uncle Jack to discuss how to handle the inevitable family fallout once my identity as the acquirer became public. You'll need to decide how much to reveal, and when, he advised. Consider your end goal here, Leonard. Is it just business, or is there something more you want from this situation? His question forced me to confront my deeper motivations. Yes, acquiring Market Forge made business sense, but I couldn't deny the emotional component. After years of being dismissed and undervalued by my family, part of me desperately wanted them to recognize what I had built, to acknowledge that my path had been valid and successful. Yet another part feared that even this wouldn't change how they saw me, that they would find some way to minimize my achievement or credit my success to luck rather than ability and perseverance. I want the truth to come out, I finally told Uncle Jack. I want them to see me as I really am, not the failure they've imagined, but someone who's built something meaningful, despite their lack of support. He nodded understanding. Then be prepared for Easter dinner, he said, and remember who you are now, not who they've always thought you to be. The acquisition papers were finalized the Thursday before Easter. The formal announcement would come the following Wednesday, after the holiday weekend. As I signed the documents making me the new owner of Market Forge, and technically Rebecca's boss, I felt a strange combination of professional satisfaction and personal trepidation. The business decision was sound. The personal ramifications remained to be seen. Easter Sunday arrived bright and clear, a deceptive calm before the storm I knew was coming. I drove to my parents' suburban home with a knot in my stomach and the acquisition papers locked in my briefcase. As I parked in the driveway, I noticed Rebecca's luxury SUV, already there, along with several other vehicles belonging to aunts, uncles, and cousins. Uncle Jack's sedan pulled in behind me, and he gave me a reassuring nod as we walked to the door together. The house was exactly as it had always been during holiday gatherings, meticulously decorated, filled with the aroma of my mother's traditional Easter ham, and buzzing with conversations that inevitably centered around Rebecca's latest accomplishments. I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell, reminding myself that after today nothing would be the same. My mother opened the door, greeting Uncle Jack warmly, before giving me a perfunctory hug. "Leonard, you're finally here," she said, her tone suggesting I was late, although I had arrived precisely at the time specified in her invitation. "Everyone else is already in the living room." As I entered, I immediately spotted Rebecca holding court near the fireplace, surrounded by admiring relatives. She was dressed immaculately in a designer outfit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, or at least the monthly rent I used to pay before Next Level Digital took off. She was gesturing animatedly, clearly in the middle of a story about herself. So then the investor's representative called me personally to say that they were especially interested in my division, she was saying as I approached. Apparently, my innovative approach to client acquisition is exactly what attracted their attention in the first place. Our cousin Megan looked impressed. "That's amazing, Rebecca. So you'll be working directly with this mysterious billionaire?" Rebecca laughed confidently. "Well, once the deal goes through, I expect I'll be one of his key executives." Between us, she lowered her voice conspiratorially. "I think they're planning to clean house at the upper levels, but they've made it clear that I'm considered essential personnel." I suppressed a smile at the irony. If she only knew. My father noticed me and waved me over. "Leonard, come listen to Rebecca's exciting news. Her company is being acquired by a major technology investor." His tone suggested I might learn something from her example. "Congratulations," I said, managing to keep my voice neutral. "That sounds like a significant development." Rebecca barely acknowledged my presence. "It's transformative," she corrected. "This isn't just an acquisition. It's a strategic partnership that recognizes Market Forge's industry leadership." The statement was so divorced from reality that I might have laughed if the situation weren't so painful. Throughout the pre-dinner mingling, the pattern continued. Rebecca dominated every conversation with exaggerated tales of her business acumen and the fantastic future that awaited her post-acquisition. My parents beamed with pride, occasionally interjecting to emphasize a particularly impressive detail or remind other relatives of Rebecca's past triumphs. When anyone asked about my work, which was rare, my father would quickly answer before I could. "Leonard's still doing his computer things," he'd say dismissively. "Small-scale web design, right, son? Nothing like the corporate world Rebecca navigates." By the time we sat down for dinner, my resolve had hardened. I had planned to wait until after the holiday to reveal my role in the MarketForge acquisition, but Rebecca's fabrications and my parents' dismissive attitude made me reconsider. Uncle Jack caught my eye across the table and raised an eyebrow questioningly. I gave him a slight nod. As the main course was served, Rebecca launched into yet another self-congratulatory monologue. "The acquisition is really a testament to how I've positioned MarketForge in the marketplace," she declared. "Our potential buyer specifically cited my department's performance as a key factor in their interest." My mother passed the mashed potatoes to my father. "We always knew you were executive material, Rebecca. Remember when you were just 10 and organized that charity drive? You've always had leadership qualities. Unlike some people who prefer to work alone," my father added with a pointed glance in my direction. "Team leadership is where the real achievements happen." I took a sip of water, considering my next move carefully. Before I could speak, my aunt turned to me. "What about you, Leonard? Any exciting developments in your website business?" The hesitation before website business made it clear she didn't consider it a real career. "Actually, yes," I began, but Rebecca interrupted. "Leonard, before you talk about adding another small business client or whatever I was about to explain the complex negotiations involved in a multi-million-dollar acquisition," she turned back to the table. "As I was saying, the investors' team has been incredibly impressed with my vision." That was the moment I decided the charade had gone on long enough. I pulled out my phone and pretended to receive a call. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. "I need to take this. It's about a business matter." I stepped just far enough away from the table to be heard, but not so far that they couldn't listen to my conversation. "Yes, this is Leonard. The MarketForge acquisition." "Yes, everything is proceeding according to schedule. No, we haven't disclosed my identity to the current executives yet. Yes, I'm still planning to replace the VP of Client Acquisition immediately. Her performance metrics are unacceptable, and there's documented evidence of mismanagement. I'll sign the final papers on Tuesday as planned." A stunned silence fell over the dining room. I turned to find every eye fixed on me, expressions ranging from confusion to shock. Rebecca's face had drained of color. "What are you talking about?" she demanded, her voice unnaturally high. "What acquisition? What VP are you replacing?" I returned to my seat calmly. "I'm talking about Next Level Digital's acquisition of MarketForge," I said evenly. "My company is the mysterious billionaire investor you've been bragging about all afternoon." The silence that followed was absolute. My father was the first to recover. "Your company?" he repeated incredulously. "What company?" "Next Level Digital," I said. "The digital marketing and technology firm I founded 5 years ago. We currently have 400 employees across 6 offices nationwide, and as of Tuesday we'll own MarketForge." Rebecca's shock transformed into anger. "This is ridiculous. You run a tiny web design shop from your apartment. You can't possibly have the resources to acquire MarketForge." Instead of arguing, I opened my briefcase and removed a folder containing acquisition documents with both companies' logos prominently displayed. I placed it on the table where everyone could see it. "Next Level Digital is currently valued at just over $300 million, I said quietly. "MarketForge's purchase price is $42 million, which frankly was generous given its declining performance and technological obsolescence." My mother's hand flew to her mouth. "But you never said anything about this company. All these years we thought. You thought what you wanted to think I finished for her. You decided I was a failure without ever asking about my work or taking an interest in my career. It was easier to dismiss me than to understand what I was building." Rebecca lunged for the folder, flipping through the documents frantically. "This can't be real," she insisted, but her voice had lost its confidence. "You're making this up. The announcement goes public on Wednesday," I continued calmly. "But since we're family, I thought you should know first. Especially you, Rebecca, since your position will be eliminated in the reorganization. You're firing me, she practically shrieked. You can't fire me. I'm essential to Market Forge's operations. I pulled another document from my briefcase, a performance analysis of Rebecca's department compiled during our due diligence. Under your leadership, client acquisition has decreased by 34% over the past 2 years. Client retention in your portfolio is the lowest in the company. Additionally, we've documented multiple instances of workplace policy violations, including verbal abuse of subordinates and taking credit for work done by your team. Rebecca's face flushed with anger. This is about your jealousy. You've always been jealous of my success, my relationship with Mom and Dad. My father, who had been staring at the documents in disbelief, finally found his voice. Leonard, is this some kind of elaborate joke? Some way to upset your sister at Easter dinner? The fact that he still couldn't believe my success, even with evidence literally in front of him, confirmed everything I had felt for years. This is no joke, I said firmly. It's business. Market Forge has been mismanaged for years, and Rebecca's department is a primary example of that mismanagement. As the new owner, I have a responsibility to my shareholders and employees to put competent leadership in place. Uncle Jack spoke up for the first time. Thomas, Patricia, Leonard is telling you the truth. I've been an investor in Next Level Digital since the beginning. Your son has built one of the most innovative companies in the digital marketing space completely without your knowledge or support. My mother looked from Uncle Jack to me, her expression unreadable. Why didn't you tell us? She asked quietly. Would you have believed me? I countered. When have you ever taken my career seriously? When have you ever shown interest in my work beyond comparing it unfavorably to Rebecca's? An uncomfortable silence fell over the table as my parents struggled to process this new reality. Rebecca, meanwhile, had moved from shock to calculation. Leonard, she said, her tone suddenly conciliatory, we're family. Surely we can work something out. I know Market Forge needs modernization, and with your technology expertise and my client relationships, your client relationships have deteriorated significantly over the past 18 months, I interrupted. 3 of your 5 largest accounts have reduced their spending by more than 60%. 2 others have given notice that they won't be renewing their contracts. Rebecca's face hardened. You'll regret this, she threatened. I have connections throughout the industry. I'll make sure everyone knows how you conducted this hostile takeover. It wasn't hostile, I corrected her. The board unanimously approved the acquisition. They recognized that the company needed new leadership and direction. Your personal vendetta won't change the business reality. I stood up from the table, suddenly exhausted by the confrontation and the years of resentment that had led to it. I think it's best if I leave now. The acquisition announcement will be made public on Wednesday. Rebecca, you'll receive formal notice of your position's elimination, along with a severance package that's more than generous given the circumstances. As I gathered my documents and briefcase, my father finally seemed to grasp the magnitude of what was happening. Leonard, he said, his voice uncharacteristically tentative, perhaps we should talk about this privately. If your company is as successful as you say, we should discuss how the family can support your endeavors. The naked self-interest in his sudden attempt at reconciliation was the final straw. For 32 years you've made it clear that my endeavors weren't worth your attention, I said. I don't need your support now. I never did. With that, I walked out of the dining room, followed by Uncle Jack. As we reached the front door, I could hear Rebecca's angry voice and my mother's attempts to calm her. Uncle Jack put his hand on my shoulder. That was a long time coming, he said quietly. I nodded, feeling a complex mix of emotions, vindication certainly, but also sadness for the family relationships that had been irreparably damaged, not by today's revelations, but by years of dismissal and favoritism. It was, I agreed, but it's just business. We both knew it was much more than that. The days following Easter dinner were a whirlwind of professional activity and personal fallout. On Wednesday morning, Next Level Digital issued a press release announcing the acquisition of Market Forge. Business publications quickly picked up the story, with headlines focusing on the tech wunderkind behind Next Level Digital, who had engineered the strategic acquisition of an established but struggling competitor. My phone began ringing incessantly with calls from family members. I let most go to voicemail, needing space to process my emotions and focus on the business transition. Uncle Jack kept me updated on the family dynamics, reporting that Rebecca had moved through stages of denial, rage, and finally desperate attempts to salvage her position. "She's been calling everyone in the family, trying to paint you as the villain," he told me over lunch. "Your parents are confused and embarrassed. They've been telling people they always knew you had potential, but just wanted you to prove yourself." He shook his head. Revisionist history at its finest. At Market Forge headquarters, the announcement of new ownership was met with a mix of anxiety and cautious optimism. Many employees had recognized the company's decline and feared for their jobs long before our acquisition. When I visited the office for the first time as owner, I made a point of meeting with staff at all levels, not just executives. The relief on many faces was palpable when I explained that our goal was revitalization, not dismantlement. "We're not here to strip assets or eliminate departments," I assured them. "We're here to combine Next Level's technological innovation with Market Forge's established client relationships and industry experience. This should be a partnership that benefits both organizations." One junior account manager raised her hand tentatively. "What about Miss Crawford?" she asked, referring to Rebecca. "We received notice that she's been, transitioning out of the company." I chose my words carefully. Leadership changes are sometimes necessary during acquisitions. We've identified areas where new approaches are needed, and the client acquisition department is one of them. Anyone who's concerned about their own position should focus on performance, adaptability, and teamwork. Those are the qualities we value at Next Level Digital, and they'll be equally valued in the combined company. The integration process moved forward methodically. We assigned teams from both companies to work together on technology transfers, client communications, and organizational restructuring. I was pleased to discover that beneath Rebecca's dysfunctional leadership, Market Forge had many talented employees who were eager to embrace new methods and technologies. 2 weeks after the acquisition announcement, I received an unexpected call from my father. He asked to meet for lunch, suggesting a high-end restaurant downtown where he often entertained clients. I agreed but proposed an alternative venue, a casual cafe near Next Level Digital's headquarters. The symbolic reversal of power wasn't lost on either of us. When he arrived looking uncomfortable in the relaxed environment, I noticed he seemed older, somehow less imposing than the father who had loomed so large in my childhood. He fidgeted with his expensive watch as we exchanged awkward greetings. "Your mother and I have been doing a lot of thinking," he began after we ordered. "We realize now that we may have underestimated your ambitions and abilities." "That's putting it mildly," I replied, not making this easy for him. He cleared his throat. "Yes, well, we want you to know that we're proud of what you've accomplished. Building a company valued at $300 million is no small feat. We should have paid more attention to your work." The belated recognition felt hollow. "Would you be proud if Next Level Digital was worth $3 million instead of $300 million? Would you have been interested in my work if it hadn't resulted in the acquisition of Rebecca's company?" He had no answer for that which was an answer in itself. "Leonard," he said, "finally, we're your parents. Despite our mistakes, we want to be part of your life and success." I studied him, trying to determine if his contrition was genuine or merely a reaction to the sudden shift in family dynamics. "I appreciate that," I said carefully, "but rebuilding our relationship will take more than one lunch. It will require acknowledging the years of favoritism and dismissal, not just congratulating me now that I've succeeded despite your lack of support." He nodded uncomfortably. "Your mother would like to visit your office sometime, to see what you've built." It was a small gesture, but perhaps a starting point. "She's welcome to visit. So are you." Meanwhile, Rebecca had taken a different approach. After her initial fury, she had consulted with attorneys about challenging the acquisition, or at least her termination. When they informed her that both were legally sound, she shifted to threatening media exposure, claiming she would reveal how her own brother had orchestrated a vindictive corporate takeover. Rather than engaging in a public battle, I instructed our legal team to respond with calm professionalism. We provided Rebecca with a severance package that included 6 months of salary and benefits far more generous than required, given the documented performance issues. The package came with a standard non-disparagement clause, which her attorneys advised her to accept. To my surprise, Rebecca requested a meeting 3 weeks after her termination. We met in a neutral location, a private room at a business club downtown. She arrived immaculately dressed as always, but I noticed subtle signs of stress, dark circles under her eyes, a certain tightness around her mouth. "I've been reviewing the performance reports you included with my termination notice," she began without preamble, "and I've spoken with several former clients." I waited, expecting accusations or demands. "The reports weren't wrong," she said finally, the admission clearly difficult for her. "I've been losing clients for the past 2 years. I convinced myself it was market conditions or budget cuts on their end, but the truth is, I wasn't providing the results they needed." Her candor surprised me. "That's a difficult realization," I acknowledged. "When did you start planning to acquire MarketForge?" she asked. "Was this about revenge all along?" "No," I answered truthfully. "The acquisition opportunity emerged only recently when I learned about MarketForge's financial struggles. It made business sense independent of our personal history." She nodded slowly. "But you must have enjoyed the moment at Easter. After all those years of Mom and Dad treating you like the family disappointment." "I won't pretend there wasn't an element of personal satisfaction," I admitted. "But that wasn't my primary motivation." A complex expression crossed her face, part resentment, part reluctant respect. "You built something real while I was busy impressing people at cocktail parties," she said. I miscalculated. The conversation marked a turning point in our sibling relationship. We weren't suddenly close, and years of resentment couldn't be erased in a single meeting. But there was a new honesty between us that had never existed before. As weeks passed, the integration of MarketForge into Next Level Digital proceeded more smoothly than anticipated. We retained approximately 80% of MarketForge's staff, transitioning them to our more innovative approaches and technologies. Client retention exceeded our projections as businesses responded positively to the enhanced services we could now provide. My parents eventually visited Next Level Digital's headquarters, their expressions a mixture of astonishment and belated pride as they toured the modern offices and met my executive team. "This is remarkable, Leonard," my mother said, watching developers collaborate on our latest project. "We had no idea." "You never asked," I replied simply. Family dynamics shifted gradually. At the first family gathering after Easter, a cousin's wedding in June, relatives who had previously focused exclusively on Rebecca now approached me with questions about Next Level Digital and technology trends. Rebecca attended with a new boyfriend and a notably more subdued demeanor. We maintained a polite distance, our interaction limited to brief pleasantries. One unexpected development was the response from MarketForge employees to the acquisition. Many reached out personally to thank me for the changes we were implementing. "The atmosphere here has completely transformed," one senior account manager told me. "People aren't afraid to speak up or suggest improvements anymore. We feel valued for our contributions, not just our ability to make the boss look good." I took particular satisfaction in implementing mentorship programs for younger employees and creating pathways for advancement based on merit rather than politics. The culture I had built at Next Level Digital, collaborative, innovative, and respectful, gradually permeated the combined organization. By midsummer, Rebecca had accepted a position with a smaller marketing firm at a significantly reduced salary and title. The experience had humbled her, forcing a reevaluation of her priorities and management approach. In a brief email, she informed me that she was working with a leadership coach to develop healthier professional habits. I wished her well, genuinely hoping she would find a more sustainable form of success. 6 months after the acquisition, I invited Uncle Jack to dinner to thank him for his unwavering support throughout my journey. "I wouldn't be here without your encouragement," I told him. "When everyone else dismissed me, you saw potential." He smiled, raising his glass in a toast. "I just recognized what was already there." You did the hard work, Leonard. Never forget that. As we discussed the future of the combined company, I realized how much my perspective had evolved. The vindication I had sought for so long no longer seemed as important as building something meaningful and creating opportunities for others. The acquisition that had begun partly as a response to years of family dismissal had transformed into something more significant, a platform for innovation and positive change in the industry. 1 year after the fateful Easter dinner, I stood at the podium in Next Level Digital's largest conference room, addressing employees from both original companies at our acquisition anniversary celebration. The merged organization had exceeded all financial projections, with our integrated technology platform now considered the industry standard. More importantly, we had retained top talent from both companies and created a corporate culture that consistently ranked among the best places to work in the tech sector. Today isn't just about celebrating business success, I told the assembled team. It's about recognizing what we can achieve when we value innovation over tradition, collaboration over hierarchy, and authentic relationships over appearances. Each of you has contributed to building something exceptional. As I looked out at the faces of people who had become not just colleagues but partners in a shared vision, I reflected on the profound personal journey that had paralleled our corporate growth. The relationship with my family had evolved in ways I couldn't have predicted. My parents, confronted with undeniable evidence of my success, had been forced to reconsider their perceptions and behavior. Our interactions remained somewhat tentative, marked by their lingering embarrassment and my residual hurt. But we were establishing a new foundation based on mutual respect rather than their expectations. My mother had taken the first significant step toward reconciliation when she called to apologize specifically for missing my childhood coding competition. "I've been thinking about all the moments we missed," she said. "All the times we should have been there for you but chose Rebecca's events instead. I'm truly sorry, Leonard." The simple acknowledgement of that specific painful memory meant more than general apologies about not recognizing my potential. It suggested she was genuinely reflecting on her behavior rather than just reacting to my current success. My father found reconciliation more challenging. His identity had been so intertwined with being the family patriarch and arbiter of success that adjusting to our new dynamic required a fundamental shift in self-perception. He made efforts, though, asking thoughtful questions about my business decisions, recommending books he thought might interest me, suggesting we play golf occasionally. Small steps, but meaningful ones. Rebecca's journey had perhaps been the most surprising. After the initial shock and anger over her termination, she had undergone what appeared to be genuine self-reflection. 6 months after joining the smaller marketing firm, she had been promoted to a leadership position, not as prestigious as her former VP title, but one where she was apparently thriving. "I'm building a team from scratch," she told me during a cautious lunch meeting, "and I'm doing everything differently this time. No taking credit for others' work, no prioritizing appearances over results, no ruling through intimidation." "What prompted the change?" I asked, curious about her transformation. She considered the question carefully. Getting fired by my younger brother in front of our entire family was a powerful wake-up call, she admitted with unexpected humor. "But more than that, it was seeing what you built at Next Level Digital, not just the business success, but the culture. Your employees genuinely respect you. That's worth more than any executive title." Our sibling relationship would never be particularly close. Too much history stood between us, but we had reached a place of mutual respect that would have seemed impossible a year earlier. Uncle Jack remained my most trusted advisor and friend. He had recently retired from his IT career and accepted my offer to join Next Level Digital's board of directors, where his wisdom and experience proved invaluable. "You've created something that matters," he told me after one board meeting. "Not just a successful company, but a place where people can do their best work and be recognized for it." Beyond the family dynamics, I had undergone my own evolution. The acquisition of MarketForge had satisfied my desire for vindication, but that satisfaction proved surprisingly hollow. What brought genuine fulfillment wasn't seeing my parents' and sisters' shocked expressions at Easter dinner, but rather creating opportunities for talented people and solving meaningful problems in our industry. This realization led me to establish the next-level foundation, which provided technology, education, and mentorship to young people from underprivileged backgrounds. The foundation specifically sought out students whose potential might be overlooked, the quiet ones with unconventional talents who might not fit traditional models of success. Success without character is meaningless, I told the first cohort of foundation students, and external validation is a poor substitute for knowing your own worth. The most important skill you can develop isn't coding or marketing strategy, but the ability to believe in yourself when others don't see your value. After the anniversary celebration concluded, I returned to my office to find an unexpected email from Rebecca. She had attached a photo from a family vacation 25 years earlier. My name is Leonard. I'm 32 years old, and I've spent my entire life living in the shadow of my older sister Rebecca. While my parents worshipped the ground she walked on, they dismissed everything I ever accomplished. They never knew I was secretly building a tech empire while they mocked my computer hobby. Last Easter, everything changed when I revealed I had purchased the company where my sister was VP, right before I fired her in front of our entire family. Before I dive into how I turned the tables on my family, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt underestimated by the people who should believe in you the most. Growing up in suburban Boston wasn't easy for me. Our upper-middle-class neighborhood was filled with competitive families, but the toughest competition was inside our own home. My father, Thomas, built a successful law practice from scratch, becoming one of the most sought-after attorneys in Massachusetts. My mother, Patricia, had her own interior design business catering to wealthy clients. They were the quintessential power couple, and they expected nothing less than perfection from their children. Rebecca, 5 years my senior, was their perfect firstborn. From the moment she brought home her first straight-A report card in elementary school, she became the golden standard against which I would always be measured. While my birthday parties were modest affairs at the local pizza place, Rebecca's celebrations were elaborate events with professional entertainment and customized decorations. My parents would beam with pride as they introduced her to their friends and colleagues, while I would be an afterthought if mentioned at all. When I was 10, I discovered my passion for computers and coding. The logical patterns of programming languages made sense to me in a way that human interactions never did. I would spend hours in my room teaching myself BASIC and HTML, creating simple games and websites. I remember running downstairs excitedly to show my parents a basic game I had programmed. My father glanced at the screen for less than 5 seconds before saying, "That's nice, Leonard, but don't waste too much time on these computer games. You should join a sports team like your sister." Rebecca was captain of the debate team and played varsity soccer activities my parents considered worthwhile. The disparity in how we were treated became painfully obvious when I was 12. I had entered a regional coding competition and against all odds won first place.